Hi, it's Liz from Fast Kitty Crafts. Today we'll be making this adorable short sleeve raglan sweater that is worked from the top down, and that means no seams. For fun, I added a row of hearts around the yoke. Great for Valentine's Day, but I think it will look cute in any color combination. For the main color, I used 2 balls of this sparkly red yarn. It was rated as a size 4 weight, but it's on the lighter side. It's more like a 3.5 if there's such a thing. And then I found this coordinating sparkly pink yarn in Coral Sparkle, and it's also a size 4 weight. And you will also need a size I or 5.5mm crochet hook. For this project, gauge is pretty important, so my gauge turned out to be 14 double crochets by 7 rows equals a 4-inch square. And so now begin with a slip knot and chain 85. When you reach the end of the chain, turn the chain over, and in the second chain from the hook, place a half double crochet, and then half double crochet in each chain to the end of the row. And when you reach the end of the row, bring the beginning of the row around and join to the first stitch. And be careful not to have any twists in your row. And don't worry, you can stitch up that gap between the beginning and the ending of the chain with the tail later. And then chain 1, turn, and now we'll be doing a front post half double crochet around the first stitch. Just yarn over and go around the post of that first stitch and complete your half double crochet as normal. The next stitch will be a back post half double crochet, so just yarn over, insert your hook from the back, go around the front of the post, and then complete your half double crochet stitch as normal. And then just repeat your front post and back post half double crochets until you get to the end of the row. This stitch pattern gives us a really pretty rib texture for the collar. And now here I am at the end of the row, and so we'll be joining with a slip stitch to that first stitch, chain 1, and in that same stitch as the join, we'll be doing a stacked single crochet, which will be a substitute of a regular double crochet. So just make a loose single crochet and then turn your stitch to the side, and in those 2 side loops, place another single crochet. I like making my first double crochets of a round this way because it makes the seam almost invisible. And now we're just going to double crochet in the next 9 stitches. And so now we will be creating our first increase. So in the next stitch, place 2 double crochets, and then also in the next stitch, place 2 double crochets. And now just double crochet in the next 19 stitches. And now just repeat this process 2 more times with an increase and then 19 double crochets, ending with an increase and 9 double crochets. Now here I am towards the end of the row, and it turns out to be sort of a rounded square. And here's that last increase, and so then just double crochet to the end of the row. And here I am placing my last double crochet in the last stitch, and be sure you ignore that joining stitch, and then join to the top of that stacked single crochet that you created. And then chain one and make another stacked single crochet in the same stitch. And now just double crochet in each stitch until you get to the first increase. And so now we are approaching our first increase of this row. So think of each increase as a group of 4 stitches. And so we will be creating our increase in the second and third stitches from the increase from the previous row. And now here's the double crochet in that first stitch of the increase. So in the next stitch, we will place 2 double crochets, and then in the next stitch, 2 double crochets. And then just double crochet in each stitch until you get to the next increase, and then I'll show you what that looks like again. And so now here's that next increase. It's a group of 4 stitches, and so you just place 2 double crochets in that second and third stitch. And then just repeat this process until you get to the end of the row. And so now here's the end of the second row of double crochets, and you'll double crochet in that last stitch and then skip that joining stitch and join to the top of that stacked single crochet. And so row 3 is a repeat of row 2, just double crochet in each stitch until you get to those corner increases. And remember, the increase is created by placing 2 double crochets in those second and third stitches from that 4 stitch group. And repeat this double crochet row for 7 rows total. And at the end of that row, you should have 140 stitches. Here I am towards the end of that 7th row, and you can see the joins are looking pretty straight. And so now we are about to begin our heart stitch row. So when you get to the end, just join to your first stacked single crochet as normal. And you can finish off your yarn at this point. And now grab your contrast color yarn, and in that second stitch, the one next to your first stitch, insert your hook and pull through your new color yarn. And then chain 3, and then we were going to create our first cluster stitch. And so now yarn over, insert your hook into the same stitch as your chain, and pull through a loop, yarn over, and pull through the first 2 loops on your hook, yarn over again, insert your hook into the same stitch and pull through a loop, and then yarn over and pull through the first 2 loops on your hook, and now you should have 3 loops on your hook. And so now skip 2 stitches, and in the next stitch yarn over, insert your hook, pull through a loop, yarn over, pull through 2 loops, yarn over again, insert your hook, pull through a loop, yarn over, pull through 2 loops, yarn over again, insert your hook, pull through a loop, yarn over, pull through 2 loops, and now pull through all 6 loops on your hook. And now chain 5, skip a stitch, and I'll show you how to do the next heart stitch. So now skip a stitch, and in the next stitch begin another cluster just like the one previous. And you should now have 4 loops on your hook, so skip 2 stitches and then begin another 3 double crochets without finishing them off. And this time you will have 7 loops on your hook. Now pull through all 7 loops and then chain 5. And repeat these heart stitches until you get to the end of the row. And when you get to the end of this row, after your chain 5, just join to the top of your first heart stitch. And then you can finish off this yarn at that point. And now here's what our pretty little yoke is looking like. And now you are going to need 4 stitch markers. And we will be placing a stitch marker at each corner of the yoke. So find your increases there, and there's a heart that's centered there. So place your stitch marker in the center of that heart. And do the same at each corner. And you should have 6 hearts between each of these corner hearts. And so now go back to where your main color joining stitches are and begin with a fresh piece of your main color with a slip knot. Insert your hook into that chain 5 space, pull through your slip knot and chain 1. And now create another stacked single crochet and then a double crochet in that same chain 5 space. Next we will double crochet around the base of that first heart. So yarn over and then go around the point of that heart. Yarn over, pull through 2 loops and finish your double crochet. And now double crochet 4 times in the next chain 5 space. And so the next stitch, think of it as a front post double crochet. So we're double crocheting around that base of the heart And so we're treating the base of the heart like a post of a double crochet. And so just repeat, placing your 4 double crochets in the chain spaces and the front post double crochet around the hearts until you get to the next stitch marker. So now I have reached the next stitch marker and I'm placing my front post double crochet around the base of the heart. And in this next section between the 2 stitch markers in each chain space, we'll be placing 5 double crochets. And the reason why there's 5 instead of 4 double crochets, it's an easy way of adding increases to this row. So just continue with a front post double crochet at each heart and then 5 double crochets at each chain space until you get to the next stitch marker. And in this section you'll be going back to 4 double crochets in each chain space, and then the next section back to 5 double crochets in each chain space, and then that final section back to 4 double crochets in each chain space. And here's that last front post double crochet around the last heart. And then we'll place 2 double crochets in that last chain space and join to the first stitch. And now begin the next row with your stacked single crochets and double crochet in each stitch until you get to the next corner. And when I say corner, I mean each stitch marker. So at the first stitch marker in that stitch, place 3 double crochets. So your increases for this row will be 3 double crochets at each stitch marker. And now I've gone ahead and completed the next row. You do it the same way as the previous row, just a double crochet in each stitch and then a 3-stitch increase in each corner, and this is what it looks like. Your 3-stitch increase will be in the center stitch of the increase from the row before. And so now I've gone ahead and completed 8 double crochet rows total past that heart stitch row. And you can see my joining stitches there in the middle, but then I decided to turn it and make that the side seam. I wanted the extra fullness created by those 5 stitches at the chain spaces at the front and back instead of the sleeves. So now we'll be establishing where the body stitches will go. I've placed stitch markers at each corner. Here it's the stitch just beyond that center stitch of each increase. And my piece at this point measures 17.5 inches between those 2 stitch markers. And each sleeve measures about 7 inches from the stitch marker to the fold. And so now I'll explain how to make your sweater larger. I would consider my sweater a size small, so if you would like to make it larger, before you place those stitch markers in, just add extra rows like that last row. Just keep in mind each row you add will add about 2 inches total circumference around the yoke, or 1 inch of width to the front and back. And so I would recommend you keep adding rows until the front and back edges measure at least half of your bust measurement. And then when you reach the width you like, then go ahead and place your stitch markers at each corner and finish off your yarn. And now we are looking at the lower edge of the front of the sweater, and rejoin your yarn at this stitch marker. And begin with a chain 1 and a stacked single crochet, and then double crochet in each stitch across the front. Now we're finishing up the front, and the last stitch will go into that stitch marker. And now we're going to skip over the sleeve section and then resume our double crochets in the next stitch marker. And double crochet in each stitch along the back until you get to the next stitch marker. And your last stitch of the back will go into that next stitch marker, and then skip the sleeve section. And then join to the first stitch with a slip stitch. And chain 1 and do a stacked single crochet in the first stitch, and double crochet in each stitch around the row. And then repeat this row for as long as you want your sweater. I added 8 inches from the underarm down, so just keep in mind after that the ribbing will add another 2.5 inches. So go ahead and finish off your yarn, and then we'll be joining our contrast color yarn back to that first stitch, and then chain 10, and in the second chain from the hook place a single crochet and then single crochet in each chain, and you will have 9 single crochets. And then slip stitch into the next 2 unworked stitches of the sweater, turn, and then single crochet into the back loops of each single crochet across. Here I'm showing the 2 slip stitches, and then turn to the left, and then skip your 2 slip stitches, and then single crochet in the back loops across the row. And now when you reach the end of the row, turn to the right without a turning chain, and then single crochet into the back loops. And then just repeat this process along the bottom edge of your sweater. And when you reach the end, you can either stitch or slip stitch the ends of the ribbing together. Now we'll be finishing off the sleeve edges. I wanted my sleeve to be a little bit tighter around the arm, so I switched to a size H or a 5mm hook. So we are now working on the wrong side of the sleeve, so join your yarn to that first stitch at that first stitch marker, chain 1, and we are going to do a half double crochet decrease over the first 2 stitches. And so yarn over, insert your hook into the same stitch, yarn over and pull through a loop, yarn over again, insert your hook into the next stitch, yarn over, pull through a loop, and now pull through all the loops on your hook. And now half double crochet into the next stitch, and then we'll do another decrease over the next 2 stitches. And repeat this process around the edge of the sleeve. These decreases help to tighten up the sleeve edge around the arm. If it turns out to be too snug, you could always just use the eye hook. And we're ending the row with the half double crochet in that last stitch marker, and then join to the first stitch. And now chain 1, turn, and we'll do a front post half double crochet around the first stitch. And you can see that gap there at the underarm, but you can stitch that together with the tail. And now here's that front post half double crochet around the first stitch, and the next stitch will be a back post half double crochet around that decrease. And so your front post stitches will be around the regular half double crochets, and the back post stitches will be around all the decreases. And repeat for the other sleeve. And for a final decorative touch, I wanted to tighten up the neckline a little bit, so I ran a row of slip stitches with the contrast yarn around the collar. I hope you enjoy your beautiful new sweater. I had so much fun designing this one. Hope you join me again next time for another fun project. Bye for now.